Imagine you're cruising down a pitch-black highway.
Okay, I'm there.
You're in the passenger seat, the radio's playing softly, and everything is just totally calm.
Sounds nice.
Right. But then, suddenly, the entire cabin is flooded with this blinding, harsh yellow light.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Today, if that happened, your first thought might be that, I don't know, a door is somehow ajar or something.
Right, like an error message on the dash.
Exactly. But if you were a kid in the mid-1990s, that light meant one thing, and that was pure, unfiltered panic.
Oh, absolutely.
It meant someone had just deployed the Thomas Guide map, and the adult driving was about to completely lose their absolute mind.
The dreaded dome light. I mean, that really was the universal distress signal of the 90s family road trip.
It really was.
It meant the navigational system, which, let's be honest, was just two stressed out humans and a massive piece of folding paper, was critically failing.
Yes, exactly. And that feeling of sheer friction, that's what we're unpacking in today's deep dive.
I am so ready for this.
So we're looking at this really fantastic source article. It's titled, 6 Things Every 90s Family Car Had.
A great piece.
It is, yeah. It's a short piece, but it acts as this perfect launch pad for a much larger, honestly fascinating discussion.
Because the 1990s was this breakneck transitional era, right?
Exactly. Technology was leaping forward, but the average family, they didn't have immediate access to the sleekest, newest models.
Right, they couldn't just upgrade instantly.
Right, they were stuck driving these heavy, basically analog machines while trying desperately to retrofit them for a digital modernizing world.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that makes it so much more than just, an exercise in nostalgia.
So totally.
We aren't just here to laugh at clunky old gadgets. If you really look at the sources, this is a masterclass in how human beings physically adapt their environments during periods of infrastructural lag.
Infrastructural lag, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, we are examining the ergonomic and cognitive cost of a world in transition. We're looking at how we literally hack our way across the gap between the outdated hardware we happen to own and the modern reality we actually want to live in.
So let's start with that ergonomic cost.
Yeah.
Because the first thing that really jumps off the page in our source material is the sheer physicality of these vehicles.
Oh, the heavy lifting.
Literally. Before, a car was this sterilized, frictionless pod that magically anticipates your climate preferences. It was a heavy piece of machinery that demanded physical labor.
It did.
And the absolute peak of that labor, the manual window crank.
Oh, man, it wasn't just a handle, it was an adversary.
Use a mandatory gym session for your right arm.
Yeah.
I mean, the article notes that rolling down a window genuinely built muscle.
Oh, for sure.
But let's talk about the why here. Why was it so physically hard?
Right. Because today, you just press a button.
Yeah, tiny electric motor whirs, and the glass just glides down.
But with a manual crank, you are directly engaging a pinion gear.
Wait, what gear?
A pinion gear. It turned this massive scissor-like metal mechanism inside the door panel called a regulator.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so you were physically lifting a heavy, thick pane of safety glass directly against gravity, and you were fighting the friction of aging rubber weather, stripping the whole way down.
And let's not forget the degradation of all those mechanical parts over time.
Oh, absolutely. The source mentions that every family car seemed to have at least one window that was notoriously stuck.
Always that one window.
Always. The tracks would get dirty, the grease would dry out completely, and the friction coefficient would just skyrocket.
Right.
You didn't just turn the crank casually, you had to contort your shoulder, grip that little plastic knob, and torque your entire upper body just to break the glass loose.
It totally dictated the social hierarchy of the car, too.
Oh, 100%.
Having the window seat meant you were the absolute gatekeeper of the oxygen.
You held all the power.
You did. You had to do the manual labor, sure, but as the text points out, that was vastly superior to being trapped in the middle seat between your older siblings.
Just suffocating?
Literally suffocating, because the window keeper refused to exert the physical effort to give you any air.
That's so true. But what's fascinating here is that we still say roll down the window today.
Oh, yeah, we do.
You get into a 2026 EV, tap a sleek little haptic surface, and you still tell the person next to you to roll down their window.
Which is such a brilliant example of a linguistic ghost.
It really is.
Yeah.
Language almost always outlives technology.
Right.
The physical mechanism vanishes, like the gears, the crank, the physical exertion, all totally gone, but the vocabulary preserves the memory of that physical labor.
Wow, yeah.
Our daily language is essentially a museum of outdated technologies. Every time you say roll down, You are unknowingly connecting yourself to the exact era our source is describing.
I mean, I have to challenge you on that a little bit, though. Is it really a museum?
How do you...
Well, a museum implies that we are actively preserving the history and, like, understanding it. I'd argue it's actually the exact opposite. It's a complete erasure.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because a 10-year-old today says, roll down the window. But they have absolutely zero conceptual understanding of what the rolling even refers to.
That's true. They've never seen a crank.
Exactly. It's a phantom limb. They aren't remembering the labor. The word has just been completely severed from its mechanical reality.
Okay, that is a really fair pushback. The word survives, but the context is completely hollowed out.
Right.
It just becomes an abstract command rather than a physical description of what you're doing.
Right, exactly. And that transition from physical exertion to abstract commands wasn't just happening in the car doors.
Oh, no.
It was happening in our brains, specifically with navigation. We go from the physical effort of the gears to the immense cognitive load of just finding our way around.
The maps.
The maps. Before we outsourced our spatial awareness to satellites and, soothing smartphone voices, navigating was a high-stakes, active operation.
It was intense. The source brings up the glove compartment, which, wasn't just a storage bin back then. It was the vehicle's primary data center.
Completely. It was just stuffed with those souvenir gas station maps you'd collect on road trips.
Those massive folding sheets of paper.
The ones that you could literally never fold back up the right way.
Never. It was impossible.
But for local driving, the anxiety spiked even higher. You had the Thomas Guide, which was essentially this massive encyclopedic grid system of your entire city.
So thick.
Or, worse, you had freshly printed directions from MapQuest's website.
Oh, the MapQuest printouts?
Yes. And if you were the passenger holding those printed pages, you were the CPU of the car.
And a very stressed CPU at that.
Very stressed.
The car simply couldn't reach its destination without the human processor actively reading the data, translating it into spatial reality, and issuing real-time verbal commands to the driver.
Right, like turn left in 500 feet.
Exactly. It required massive cognitive bandwidth.
Which brings us back to the ultimate childhood stressor we mentioned from the text. The interior dome light at night.
Oh, yeah.
The sheer terror of your parent aggressively flipping that light on to frantically read the MapQuest printout.
Because it broke the cardinal rule of the 90s family car.
Yes, the absolute double
Oh,
standard.
this is so unfair.
As a kid, you were told that turning on the dome light to read a comic book or something was either highly illegal or it would cause instant permanent blindness for the driver.
Right, like you're going to crash the car instantly.
Exactly. But the moment Dad missed the exit for the highway, suddenly that cabin was eliminated like a police interrogation room so he could squint at a Thomas Guide.
The irony there is hilarious, but it really highlights a profound shift in how we interact with technology.
How so?
Well, think about the sensory environment of navigation then versus now. Navigation used to be this active, high-stress, collective event.
Right, everyone was involved.
Everyone was on edge. The driver relied entirely on the passenger's real-time processing of a printed grid, and the kids in the back had to maintain absolute silence to reduce cognitive distraction.
Oh, the yelling if you talked during a tricky turn.
Exactly. While today, navigation invites totally passive distraction.
That is so true.
You type in an address, and you effectively turn off the spatial awareness center of your brain entirely.
Yeah, we have completely offloaded the friction of wayfinding.
The 90s car demanded that you participate in your environment. The modern car isolates you from it.
That is a really fascinating distinction. But, while we were still grappling with the analog demands of the car's mechanics and navigation, a new wave of media was arriving.
Oh, here we go.
And the car was absolutely not prepared for it. The physical architecture of the vehicle was frozen in time, while the culture of the passengers was rapidly digitizing.
Yes.
And this is where we get into the era of retrofitting, the hacky, imperfect bridge to the digital age.
This is arguably the most interesting part of the source material, honestly, because it's where human ingenuity had to actively compensate for manufacturing lag.
The ultimate example of this from the article is the cassette-to-CD adapter.
A true icon of technological compromise.
It really was. The article sets the scene perfectly. As kids grew up in the 90s, they developed their own musical tastes and started burning mixes onto blank CDs.
Right.
The problem was that CDs became the dominant audio format long before automakers made CD players a standard feature in cars.
The lag again.
Exactly. If you bought a family sedan in, say, 1996, it probably still just had a tape deck. So you had this shiny new digital media, but you were trapped inside analog hardware.
So you have a fundamental incompatibility. How do you force a machine that's designed to read magnetic tape to suddenly understand optical digital data?
And the workaround was absolute genius. You didn't replace the stereo. You spoofed it.
You tricked it.
You tricked it. The cassette adapter was shaped exactly like a plastic tape, but it didn't have any actual tape spooled inside it.
Oh.
Instead, it had a long audio cord trailing out of it that you'd plug into the headphone jack of your portable discman.
The engineering behind how that adapter actually worked is just fascinating.
Oh, I was hoping you'd explain this.
Well, inside a standard cassette player, there is a magnetic read head. It's designed to interpret the fluctuating magnetic fields on a moving strip of physical tape.
Okay.
And then it translates those fields into audio signals. The adapter completely bypassed the moving tape concept. It had its own magnetic transmit head built directly into the plastic shell.
Wait, so the adapter itself was generating a field?
Yes. So the electrical audio signal from your CD player traveled down the wire into the adapter, and that transmit head generated a localized magnetic field.
Oh, wow.
And it perfectly aligned with the car's red head. So the car's stereo actually thought it was reading a moving tape, but it was really just reading a stationary magnetic field that was mimicking a tape.
That is wild. It was an analog to digital translation device.
It was essentially hardware emulation. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that cassette adapter is the physical embodiment of a middle phase.
A middle phase.
Yeah. Society rarely jumps cleanly from one paradigm to the next. There is always this messy overlapping period where we have to invent transitional objects, adapters, dongles, weird workarounds, just to keep functioning.
Right.
The adapter exists purely to translate the future into a language that the past can understand.
I love that, translating the future for the past. But, let's be real about the actual user experience of that thing.
Oh, it was a mess.
It was. You had this wire dangling across the dashboard, wrapping around the gear shift, getting hopelessly tangled in the climate controls.
Always in the way.
And as the source humorously points out, just because you possessed this miraculous translation device didn't mean your parents actually consented to listen to your burned CD of alternative rock while they drove.
The hardware was bridged, but the generational divide remained completely intact.
Exactly. Yeah. But speaking of patching these lagging systems, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at another built-in feature that underwent a massive identity crisis.
Okay, what's that?
The cigarette lighter.
Oh, yes. This is a fantastic case study in how infrastructure gets hijacked for entirely new purposes.
The source reminds us what this thing originally was, right?
Yeah.
It was a literal pop-out metal coil sitting right there in the dashboard.
Just waiting.
Yeah. You push it in, a circuit closes, the coil gets glowing red hot from electrical resistance, and you literally pull it out to light a cigarette.
Insane.
The text notes how parents would threaten kids with severe grounding for life punishment if they ever touched it, so they wouldn't, sear their fingerprints off.
Which, when you really think about it, is just astounding. We were all casually driving around with an unfused, glowing hot fire hazard installed at knee level in a family space.
It's the ultimate 90s contradiction. Like, parents were terrified that kids would turn on the dome light and somehow crash the car, but they were perfectly fine with a red-hot branding iron sitting right next to the cup holders.
That is such a great point. But mechanically, here is where the story pivots.
Right.
Why did that dangerous little coil socket become the universal power source for our very first wave of digital devices?
Because of the underlying electrical engineering, right?
Exactly. When you take the heating coil out of the socket, what you are left with is a direct high amperage connection to the car's 12-volt electrical system.
Just raw power.
The car's alternator and battery run on a 12-volt direct current standard. It was essentially just an open power conduit waiting to be used.
Precisely. As early cell phones and mobile electronics hit the market, they didn't run on 12 volts, though they usually needed like 5 volts.
Right, they'd fry on 12 volts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But engineers realized they could build these bulky adapters that plugged into that specific socket using built-in voltage regulators to step the 12 volts down to whatever the device safely required.
And the source notes exactly how this played out in daily life. By the late 90s and early 2000s, that socket was no longer lighting tobacco. It was charging these massive, bulky Nokia cell phones.
Yes.
It was powering the Game Boy Advance for long road trips so the kids' batteries wouldn't die in the back seat.
It is a profound functional pivot.
Yeah.
You take a piece of hardware engineered specifically to facilitate a chemical addiction, and you completely transform it into an energy source for digital connectivity and entertainment.
It perfectly mirrors the broader behavioral shifts happening in the culture at large at that time.
And that cultural shift wasn't just reflected in the cigarette lighter.
Hmm.
The source brings us to the inevitable companion piece of the lighter, the console ashtray.
You really can't examine one without the other. They were a paired ecosystem inside the car.
Right. So by the time the 90s rolled around, the cultural tide in America was turning heavily against smoking, especially in enclosed spaces with children. The text calls out the visceral public health campaigns of the era. You know, the terrifying TV ads featuring people with voice boxes and holes in their necks.
Oh, I remember those. Those were incredibly aggressive, highly impactful campaigns.
They were inescapable.
Yeah.
And you paired that with the DSRE program in elementary schools, which essentially weaponized kids against their own parents' habits.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, entire families became hyper-aware of the dangers of secondhand smoke. As a direct result, lighting up inside the sealed environment of the family car just plummeted.
Right.
But here's the problem. The physical cars being driven didn't magically change to reflect this new health consciousness.
The architecture lagged.
Exactly. They still rolled off the assembly lines in Detroit and Tokyo with these prominent flip-open ashtrays built right into the center consoles and armrests.
This raises an important question about design versus reality.
Okay, what is it?
What happens when the architecture of your environment dictates a behavior that society has suddenly decided is unacceptable?
Well, humans do what they always do, right? They organically repurpose the empty space.
They hack it.
Yeah. Families didn't rip the ashtrays out of the dashboard, they just redefined them. The source notes that the most common replacement for ash and cigarette butts was loose change.
The coin bank.
Yes.
Hmm.
People turned the ashtray into a coin bank. Because, let's remember, back then, you still needed physical quarters to pay for parking meters and toll booths.
It's a perfect illustration of how human adaptability overcomes architectural lag.
I love that phrase.
Thanks. I mean, the engineers designed a repository for toxic ash, but the families living in the real world organically hacked the architecture to solve a completely different daily friction organizing analog currency.
Right.
We will always, always find a practical use for a void.
But sometimes the new technologies we introduce into these spaces don't actually solve friction. They just create entirely new, totally hilarious human contradictions.
Oh, boy.
Which brings us to the final and maybe the funniest item from our source material.
Yeah.
The removable stereo faceplate.
Ah, yes. The absolute zenith of 90s automotive security theater.
It was pure theater. The text describes this as the ultimate splurge upgrade.
Oh, for sure.
If your family actually paid to rip out the factory tape deck and install an aftermarket CD-playing stereo system, it felt monumental.
Like you'd made it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These units had digital screens, tiny little buttons that lit up in neon green or blue. The source says they looked practically futuristic. You seriously felt rich if your car had one.
It was a highly visible status symbol prominently displayed right in the dead center of the dashboard.
But with that status symbol came intense paranoia.
Yes.
Car break-ins for stereos were a massive problem. So the audio manufacturers engineered this seemingly brilliant security solution, the removable faceplate.
Right.
The stereo unit itself was hardwired and bolted into the dash, but the front panel, the piece that contained all the microcontrollers, the screen, the buttons, it could just pop off with the push of a release catch.
The mechanical logic was actually totally sound. Without the faceplate, the head unit left in the dashboard is completely inoperable. It's just a useless brick to a thief.
Right. And to complete the security protocol, you were supposed to take that expensive faceplate with you.
Right. In the case.
Yeah, you pop it off, slide it into this hard plastic carrying case they provided, and literally carry it with you into the grocery store, the movie theater, or the mall.
But here is where the engineering collides head-on with human psychology.
Exactly. So what does this all mean? We were presented with a highly sophisticated, technically flawless security solution, and human laziness just instantly neutralized it.
Immediately.
The source hits the nail on the head here. Absolutely no one wanted to walk around at a shopping mall carrying a bulky piece of plastic and circuitry in their pocket. It was incredibly inconvenient.
The engineers assumed that users would prioritize absolute security over minor inconvenience.
Rookie mistake.
Totally. Because history shows us that humans will almost always prioritize convenience over security. We will inevitably take the path of least resistance.
Always. So what did every single parent do? They popped the faceplate off to quote-unquote arm the security system and then immediately shoved the faceplate right under the passenger seat.
Yep.
Or they hid it in the glove compartment right next to the Thomas guide.
Which means The stereo wasn't actually secure at all. The key to the vault was literally hidden inside the vault.
It's so absurd.
Hmm?
But the source points out a brilliant, unintentional irony here. Even though hiding the faceplate in the glove box clearly compromised the actual security, it still functioned perfectly as a visual deterrent.
Wait, how so?
Well, because when you remove the faceplate, you expose the ugly metal chassis and all the little connection pins underneath. As the text notes, it made the stereo look like it had already been ripped out and stolen.
Oh, that's amazing. You were essentially camouflaging your expensive stereo by making it look like a crime scene.
Yes. It's the most flawless 90s logic imaginable. You make your car look like it's already been robbed so that nobody robs it. You defeat the thief by pretending the thief already won.
That is brilliant.
It is such a hilarious human contradiction, and honestly, it encapsulates everything we've been unpacking in this deep dive.
It really does.
When you synthesize all of these details, the heady glass, the paper maps, the dangling cassette wires, the repurposed ashtrays, the hidden faceplates, a really clear, overarching picture emerges.
Yeah.
The 90s family car wasn't a luxury pod. It wasn't seamless.
Yeah.
But through all the errands, the long road trips, and the stressful driving lessons, it was a profound testament to human adaptability.
Absolutely.
It was a messy, eclectic mashup of outdated built-ins and retrofitted digital hacks.
It was basically a rolling 65-mile-per-hour monument to a society that was caught squarely between two eras.
Beautifully said. So for
Yeah.
you listening right now, the next time you get into a vehicle and you experience that absolute eerie lack of friction,
It's so smooth now.
so smooth. The next time you seamlessly lower a window with the gentle tap of an electronic switch, or you let a soothing algorithm guide you perfectly to a destination you've never been to, take just 1 second to appreciate the contrast.
Yeah.
Remember the raw physical muscle it used to take to simply invite fresh air into the cabin. Remember the tangled cords of the cassette adapters and the genuine, palpable anxiety of trying to read a printed grid map under a glaring dome light while hurtling down a dark highway.
The stress.
The frictionless magic of today is only possible because we hacked our way through the heavy analog friction of yesterday.
It is a contrast really worth remembering. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over on your own.
Oh, I love these.
So we debated earlier about how the phrase rolling down a window has completely outlived the physical hand crank, surviving as this linguistic ghost that has lost its mechanical context.
Right.
As you go about your day-to-day, interacting with all of our modern seamless technology, look around. Ask yourself, what modern phrases or physical gestures are we using right now that will completely lose their original meaning for the next generation, yet remain stubbornly lodged in our vocabulary?
Oh, that's good.
What are the window cranks of tomorrow?
That is a great question. Think about that the next time you tell someone you're going to hang up a smartphone that has absolutely no physical receiver or hook to hang anything on.
Exactly.
Keep observing the invisible history in the world around you, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.